Good afternoon, everybody. We are live in the Bacon Fraser kitchen again, and today we have Miss Cole Seal from the United Way of the Coastal Empire, Liberty County, and she's here to show us some of the recipes that they have put together for their food bags from the food pantry, right?
That is right.
All right.
These are really great, really easy recipes, and they were developed for meal bags to be given to families who are experiencing an emergency food need. And so the idea is that it is a complete meal in one bag. You don't have to stop at the grocery store. We can hand this to a family and say, here, go home and make a meal. So I'm going to just demonstrate a couple of them, and they're really easy. The first one I'm going to start with is a shepherd's pie recipe. And we're going to start with that, and then I'll put it in the oven and make some stew also.
All right.
So as you can see, we just have all of the ingredients right here. The shepherd's pie uses mixed veggies and some roast beef and tomato soup, and then it's topped with some mashed potatoes. So we're going to start with the mashed potatoes. The recipe tells you to just prepare the mashed potatoes however is instructed on the back. I always make them a little bit loose, that way they're easier to spread on the top.
Makes sense.
Yeah. This one calls for 2 cups of hot water. So I'm just gonna go a little over. We're just gonna heat it in the microwave. Maybe. So I always start with the mashed potatoes first because you gotta let them sit for a couple minutes and kind of absorb. And the really great thing about these recipes is that they're not just for people who are having a food emergency. Like you can keep these, you can get these recipes and you can put them at the back of the shelf, and you get home at night and you're like, I have no clue what I'm making for dinner. There's something right there. Yeah. And you can also skip the canned meats and use actual, for this one you could use ground beef or something like that. Or leftover roast beef, or whatever you wanted to put in there.
Use what you got in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've tried them with the ground beef and with the leftover roast beef, and it works really well either way. But I do have to admit that I'm a really, really weirdly picky eater, and so these are all recipes that I have developed with the help of my really awesome family, because they will eat anything I put in front of them. I, however, will
Not so much.
I can put it together and I can cook it, but beyond that, it's not happening. So, just give those a stir. And those will kind of come together here in a few minutes. And then I'll just let this sit. I'm gonna rinse this off because I'm gonna use it again. Because the other thing about these recipes that's really great is that you don't have to have a lot of stuff in your kitchen. You have very basic stuff. So now we're going to open the mixed veggies. And we'll see how much fun we have here, right?
So how many of these recipes have you guys come up with so far?
There are 15. There are 15 different recipes, and some of them use canned chicken, some of them use canned beef, and some of them use tuna. There's actually one recipe that doesn't use any meat at all.
Okay,
It
so you
uses, some beans.
have some vegetarian options.
Yeah, because that happens. Or sometimes you just get tired of it.
Yeah, that's very true.
So.
Do you have a favorite one?
Well, like I said, because I'm a really weirdly picky eater, I don't. But this one that I'm going to make here in a few minutes, the white bean and ham stew, is a favorite at my house.
Is it?
Yeah. my son is not convinced that it is actually ham. He's always like, "Well, it tastes like chicken to me." I'm like, "You're weird," but we love him anyways. All right, so for this part of the shepherd's pie, we're gonna not cut ourselves with the can. That'd be great. All right, so you just mix the veggies in there, and then pour in the soup. I always like to scrape everything out. I hate to leave something in there. Leaving behind, you know, flavor and all the yumminess. All right, so one of the things about these meals using canned meat is, you know, I mean, it's not everybody's favorite food, but it serves a purpose. And whenever somebody's, you know, really having an emergency food need, the last thing that we want to do is send somebody home with half of a recipe. And that's kind of really where this idea came from for me, was that I've spent the last few years working in nonprofit and seeing how food is given to people who are experiencing an emergency, and I just never really could get over the fact that somebody would come in and have an emergency and they need food, and you send them home with 4 or 5 cans of green beans and say, "Good luck, figure it out." So this was my solution to that. So for the beef, it's just like a roast beef, and it comes in broth, which we don't want because we don't want the shepherd's pie to be really loose. So just gonna drain that. And then if you've never cooked with the ground or the canned beef, it kind of comes in like weird chunks. So what you really want to do is open it up, and just like you would with tuna or chicken, make sure that you kind of take a fork and just break that up, or else you're just going to have this, you know, kind of some weird big bites in there, and nobody wants that. So this kind of mimics like a ground beef in the recipe.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, if you don't like it, you can just use, if you were making this at home and you weren't having an emergency need, you could use ground beef, or you could use leftover roast beef, or you could just leave it out. You could substitute some beans of some sort in there for a little bit of extra protein, but it's really flexible. All right, so we're gonna do that, and then just make sure you get it all in there. My kids are like, "Mom, that doesn't look great." I'm like, "Well, you know, you still eat it."
Yep.
And once you get to mixing it up some, once you've done that, kind of shred it up, it really does kind of just look like roast beef that you would have left over at the house. So if I can handle canned meat, I'm sure anybody out there can too, because like I said, weirdly picky eating habits. Okay, so now we've got that mixed up. It's really just that easy. And the vegetable mix, you can use any mixed vegetables. Some of them have beans in them, some of them have potatoes in them, just whatever you want. There's nothing specific. So then you're just gonna put this here in this bowl. I like to use a spatula like this so that I can really scrape everything out, because then they're easier to clean. Plus you don't feel bad because you missed some sort of flavor that got left in there. I really am kind of lazy about cleaning, so if I can have less stuff to have to clean when we're done, the better. All right, so just spread that out evenly. And then, like I said, I'm lazy, so I'm gonna rinse this off. And then I'm gonna use this to get the mashed potatoes. I'll kind of give them a stir, make sure that they've not gotten weird or anything. So the mashed potatoes can be a little tricky to put on here, like, you know, and make it really pretty. But honestly, you're not icing a cake for, you know, the Great British Baking Challenge. So just put it on there and try to get it in there nicely and as evenly as possible. kind of go down the middle first and then do the edges, because if some of that's poking out around the edge, it actually helps because then you can see if it's done. Because everything in this is actually already cooked. You just want to heat it through.
Yep.
Which is the other nice thing about the canned meats. I know that's a phrase I never thought I'd say, a nice thing about canned meats. But they are fully cooked. So like we have these emergency food pantries in several of our schools here, and a lot of these bags go home with students. So if they're at their, they're at home and they're cooking on their own because their parents are at work late or something like that, then they're eating fully cooked meals. Like, they're not gonna end up sick because they undercooked some chicken or something like that.
Yeah, that is very true. That's a good point. Pastor Hayes says that you need to give a shout out to Arkansas.
Hey, Pastor Hayes, my favorite fellow Razorback. He and I are both from Arkansas, which is a really great place to be from, isn't it? We're from different parts of Arkansas, but it's not that big of a state, so. Yeah, and I think we both ended up here in Hinesville because of the military. So we're just gonna finish this off, and then when I get done with this, we're gonna stick it in the oven.
Okay.
And then you're gonna stick it in the oven for about 20, 30 minutes, however long you want, until like the potatoes around the edge will become kind of crispy and brown, and you'll be able to see the casserole underneath it kind of like bubbling up. And it's kind of just your choice of how you want to eat it. All right, so we're gonna put that in the oven. And depending on if you're feeding teenagers or, who you're feeding at home, that will usually serve like 4 to 6 people.
Okay.
So, now that we've done that, now we're going to move on to one of my family's favorite meals, which is a white bean and ham stew. And I completely forgot earlier that we need a cutting board in there.
Okay.
So, tactical pause.
Yeah, we got Andrea here to help us.
We have really great help here. I made a list and everything, y'all. Like, I did the thing, and I
Top drawer.
top right here.
It's me. Yep.
Yeah, that'll work. All right.
Pretty neat to think that a whole meal comes in a bag.
Yeah,
Kind of nice for like meal planning too. Like, you can just put all that stuff in a bag and literally keep it in the pantry at home.
Oh yeah.
And just
When
you get, like you said, when you get home late, you just toss it in there and.
Yeah. Well, and like when you have those days where you just run behind, and these are super quick meals. Like this stew right here, you put it together, and it just depends on how hot you want it, really. Like once it's all in the pot together, you can cook it for as little as or as long as you want. So, it's really great. And then like emergency planning too, which is kind of, actually when I first started working on these meals, I perused a lot of survivalist websites for some inspiration, because I was like, well, how do you put a whole meal in a bag? Well, if anybody's gonna know how to do it, it's gonna be the survivalists, right?
That is very true.
So that was my inspiration initially for the recipes, and then like this one actually came one night. I was scrolling through Instagram and I follow Martina McBride, and she cooks a lot. I think she actually has a recipe or a cookbook, but she had made a stew that was very similar to this, and I was like, I think I could adapt that. Like it wouldn't be that hard. So here we go. Now, this ham is always a lot harder to open, and I'm always worried I'm gonna cut myself. And I don't know if y'all have ever had anybody have to get stitches, but it would be me. Especially since we're moving. Okay, so the stew uses a pound of the cooked ham. Y'all, this is ridiculous. Okay, look at that. I can do it. Okay. So this uses a pound of the fully cooked ham, or you could actually, there are like little 5-ounce cans of diced ham that you could get and use, or you can use your leftover Easter ham, as long as it hasn't been in the fridge. If it's been in the fridge, you probably should just throw it out by now. But, as long as it's good. So it uses that, some diced tomatoes. The bag includes, when you get it from our office, and the recipe calls for 2 cans of chicken broth. My family likes 1 because they like it a little more stew than soup. And then it's got spinach, which if you were making this at home, you could use fresh spinach instead of canned spinach. And then 2 cans of cannellini beans. So I'm gonna make it without 2 cans of chicken broth, but that is in there. And I like to use a fork to help me guide this because that, you know, it's kind of slippery and weird. All right, so you just dice this up, and I'm gonna use kind of a large pot that everything will fit in. And then once I get this diced up, we'll put it in there and we'll just brown it for a few minutes, and then we're literally just gonna dump everything in. So,
Rametta Wilson says, love you, Cole.
oh, hi, Ina. I love you too. She was giving me a hard time earlier this week. She's like, but can you even cook? I was like, yes, I can cook. Like, I have kids. They have survived. They're like 17 and 15 and 10. And not one of them has died of starvation yet, no matter what they tell you. Those children have never starved. They've never even missed a meal. They're kind of ornery, but I like them. So, yes, you know, I can cook. All right, let's see. Let's turn that up some more. It's not quite warmed up, but we'll go ahead.
Give you some light.
Yeah. Easier to see what we're doing.
Oh, definitely.
Alright, so we're just going to put that all in there. And as that pan warms up, that's going to brown a little bit. It won't brown a lot. And really, browning just kind of makes me feel better about myself. You could skip that stuff if you really wanted to. But that ham, when you take it out, though, it does have a little bit of like fat on there. So when you brown it, it kind of melts that fat and then it works into the recipe. So, you know, I feel like I'm doing something good there. Maybe I'm not. Maybe there's people out there going, yeah, no, you're not doing anything, wasting your time. That's fine. That's fine too.
This would also be a good recipe for hurricane season, especially something like a stew or a soup, because I know you guys have soups and stuff on there too. Because that's easy. I mean, if you've got a grill, you can put a pot on a grill and make some stew. You could do it over a campfire if you need to.
Yeah, and a lot of the recipes, like this one, a lot of the recipes are kind of like soups and stews and based like that, and so they would be really great to keep in, kind of keep in a little pot and keep that off to your side. But, and like I said, a lot of these recipes were inspired by survivalists. So
yeah, that would make sense for it to work during hurricane season when we don't have power.
Yeah, so, yeah, it all works. Really, the only stuff in there that wouldn't work, really, I think, during, disaster would be the stuff that's casserole based. So the shepherd's pie and then tuna casserole.
Yeah, because that's more of a baking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those probably wouldn't work. But honestly, well, yeah, the tuna casserole wouldn't work because it uses mac and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would have a hard time with the, it's okay. You'd have a hard time cooking the noodles.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to figure out a way to boil your water and all that. But if you can figure out a way to boil your water, the tuna casserole would be fine too. Yeah. Because the noodles are already cooked. When you mix it all together, you could use it. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these would be really great for people to hold just in case of hurricane season, which is coming up very soon.
It is. So Jennifer asked, no oil in the pan. It's not on the recipe list. And I know you said that it does kind of have almost like that layer of...
Yeah, it has like a layer of kind of fat on it that will melt and be its own oil. The thing about these recipes and the way they were developed is that they all have to be shelf stable and they have to be provided in sizes that we can send home with a family that is struggling or facing a need. So it doesn't work really well to put a giant bottle of oil into one of these meal bags and carry it home, you know, because you've got the problem of it possibly spilling into the bag, which is then going to ruin the bag, or just a lot of things. So there are a lot of recipes that I would love to make into meal bags, but I have yet to figure out small little nuances in them. So still working on that. But no, on this specifically, the ham doesn't need that because it kind of lubricates itself in the pan.
And then Councilwoman Nelson says hello, and she says that you too will be a celebrity when the show is over. And then Jennifer gave us a good tip. She said that you can boil water on your grill. She baked a cake on her grill last week.
That is amazing.
It's very handy.
That is very handy. And I think you can, like, you know,
Yeah.
she said you can. You just have to be kind of industrious about doing it. And I mean, when we have had, you know, some emergencies or whatever since we've been living here, I would like to save the water boiling for coffee.
I understand
For everybody's safety.
Yeah. That's how we feel in this office too. We drink a lot of coffee here and tea because Leah doesn't drink coffee.
Yeah, well, you really have to have a coffee. Okay, so this, if it's not like super hot and it's not like super boily, but we're gonna go ahead and kind of just put everything together because like I said, it doesn't have to be really brown. So the spinach and all of this, that looks kind of like spinach out of a can, but you know, it's all good. All of this just goes straight in. You don't have to drain anything. You don't have to rinse anything because it helps to build all of the flavors. And like I was saying, you can't necessarily, I haven't solved the, you know, like salt and pepper or seasonings or anything like that. So not draining it really helps to build the flavors and kind of add some of that you don't get because you don't have a lot of seasonings in some of this. So just dump that all in there. Now the diced tomatoes that I get and I use whenever I'm making this or whenever I'm putting together any of the meal bags and what the recipe that is printed out is diced tomatoes with garlic and olive oil. So then that builds a little bit of extra flavor as well. But you could really use
Just regular
diced tomatoes, or there's a diced tomatoes that has like basil and oregano and garlic. Like you could use that. That would be really good in here. So they're really flexible also. Like you don't have to be super specific on the type, you know. So you can just use what you've got and start cooking away. The other thing I did when I was kind of developing these recipes was to track the pricing of them so that we could tell people if they want to put together some meal bags and bring them in, one, how much it would cost them to do that because it's really low cost to put this meal together, but then also that when those meal bags go home with families, they have that printed out recipe and they can see how much those ingredients cost. And then, you know, they're struggling, so their grocery budget is really small, but maybe that will help them in some way. Go, oh, I can do this. Like I can make an entire meal for $5 or $6.
Yeah.
You know, so we're gonna put all that in here because, like, this stew is $6, like $6.50.
That's not
For all
bad.
of that. And if you use the 2 cans of broth instead of the 1, you're gonna stretch it even further. But this feeds my family. And I have 2 teenage boys and a husband. They eat a lot, so. Then we just stir all that together and you can let it come to a boil and it just kind of all simmers together. The other thing about this too is my son swears it's better the next day than it was today. So, there is that.
After it sits for a little
After
while
it
and
sits,
gets soaks in all the different flavors and whatnot.
Right, but I think all soups and stews are like that. If you let them sit for a little while, they get better.
Yeah.
So those are really, I mean, you're at the point where all of that is done. You're just kind of in a holding pattern. If you have a long day and, you know, you're like, I don't know what else to do, that's the moment where you go sit down.
Yep, it sure is.
So this is still in here and it's not quite done because it's not bubbling around the edges. But, you know, it's starting to.
Yep.
But you can see, I mean, even if you had a whole lot of people that you were feeding, or you just needed to make 2 meals really quick and you wanted to put this in the fridge for tomorrow or whatever, you did all that really quick. And I think
yeah, I mean, that's even something you could probably throw in a crock pot too.
Yeah, you could put all that in the crock pot. And since this is all already cooked, you really only need a couple hours in the crock pot. You'd make sure to use both cans of broth though.
Yes.
If you were going to put it in the
crock
crock
pot
pot.
for the day.
Because there is nothing worse than coming home thinking, oh, I got dinner done, and you didn't put enough liquid in the crock pot.
Yeah.
Like, that's awful. So yeah, those are all done. And like I said, the shepherd's pie, it just gets really bubbly around the edges, and the potatoes will start to brown up and kind of get crisp. And some people like that and some people don't. So it really comes down to what you want.
All right. Well, do you want to go over the ingredient list one more time? And you can even give us the price point for the shepherd's pie too, since
let's do
we got
that.
the price point for the white bean and ham stew.
Yeah. All right. So the shepherd's pie is a little less expensive than the white bean ham stew. But so we used a pouch of instant potatoes, just a small regular pouch. I think it's like a 4 serving size. Anyways, so use that. You use the can of the roast beef, and then 2 cans of mixed veggies, and you can use any kind of mixed veggies you want, whatever you like, whatever you don't like, use it. And then a can of condensed tomato soup. And for all of that, it's the low price of $5.40.
Very nice.
Which comes out to, it serves 4 to 6 people, so you're looking at about $1 per person.
Yeah.
So it's pretty inexpensive, and it's got all of your components. Whenever I make a menu to feed the kids or feed everybody for the week, I always have a meat, a starch, and a veggie, and that's all right there in one. So you don't have to worry with anything else. And then the white bean ham stew has the canned ham, and I use the 16 ounce, but you could also use a couple cans of the diced ham that you can get. And then it is a can of diced tomatoes with garlic or whatever seasonings you want. And then 1 to 2 cans of chicken broth, 2 cans of cannellini beans, and a can of spinach. But if you didn't want to use canned spinach, you could use just a bunch of like baby spinach and just put it in there, and when it's done, like it wilts down a little bit, then it'll be done. But that is a total cost of $6.48.
Which still isn't, I mean,
still
very,
isn't bad.
very inexpensive.
Yeah, it's still a little over $1 a person, but it's still not bad at all, especially if you're looking at feeding a family. You've got a whole meal for less than $10.
Definitely.
So
So if any of our viewers wanted to help out with the meal bags, would you recommend them coming by first, or could they go and just buy ingredients and bring them in, or?
They can do however somebody wants to help. We will accept their help. However, a little guidance, if they really want to help, they can email me. It's seal, just like the animal, at uwce.org, and I will send you the PDF with all of the meal cards. There are 15 different ones. You can do one or you can do them all. 1 bag helps just as much as 15 bags, because some family is going to go home and have a meal because of what you did. So I don't want anybody to think they have to donate 100. 1 makes a difference. So yeah, they can email me. I'll send them the recipe card that they can just print, and then they can put those together and they can drop them off at our office.
That's awesome. And where is the office located, just in case anybody doesn't know?
Our office is on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, and we are right next door to the police department. We're sandwiched in between the McDonald's and the police department.
Okay.
Which is the easiest way to tell people.
It is. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to share with our lovely viewers today?
I can't think of a thing.
All right.
It's been fun.
Yes, we have all had a lot of fun. So we'll see you guys later.